Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L. Now let's talk Shokugeki no Soma chapter 242. A day late, but hey, life happens. Anyway, let's just talk about the chapter. So, we continue the gravy train that is Shokugeki no Soma. And, I guess let's just start this off. I'm a little bit confused, just a tiny bit confused. I've read the chapter over about 3 times. And I want to make sure that I understood this correctly. I'm seeing Soma there, and Soma's talking about how this is bad, and then he just continues cooking. From what it seems like, it doesn't seem that he course corrects as he's finishing his meal. The only thing that could be taken as him course correcting was the very quick observation that he was frying something and now he's looking at his oven. From the way it looks, I don't think he could have course corrected by the time that he sees Saito's dish. And in the case that he did course correct to make an even better dish, why wasn't he going full throttle since the very beginning? You know, so from my interpretation, and I think this might be the correct one, it's he didn't course correct. This was all within the plan. And in that case, this was important to clarify that I'm not very sure about what was happening, and I'm going off of this assumption. In this case, when you look at the previous chapter and when you look at this chapter, you realize what the whole "this is bad" thing was doing. That was just an unnecessary cliffhanger because, like Soma said in the chapter, he was saying I meant that. Sorry. Let me get this right. He was saying, this is bad. And what he meant by that is, it's going to be bad if I go after you with one sword. And the metaphor at the beginning of the chapter with the swords breaking, that's the indication of that. Mind you, we haven't seen the full metaphor of the swords. We know that Soma's attacking him with multiple swords, but the only indication that we get of that in terms of the metaphoric situation is Anne just getting cut up by a bunch of slashes. Not a really big deal, but it's just I am thinking that we're gonna get the full, I guess, reflection from Soma, or not the full counterattack from Soma. That image is gonna be in the next chapter, most likely ending in Soma's victory, because like this chapter pretty much just confirms it's Soma's win. That said, going back to the note about this might be bad, we see that the characters are hyped up about Soma saying that this is bad. We see that the characters are getting really freaked out about it. We see that Nikumi mentions that, you know, he's never said this before. But then when you get to the end of the chapter and then you get the reveal like, oh yeah, no, this is what I meant when I said this is bad. It was a blatant cliffhanger. There was no reason to have that cliffhanger there in the context of the second chapter. So it makes sense because like Shonen Jump is still very much a game where you kind of have to like play this game where you need to get that extra popularity, especially for Shokugeki no Soma, because Shokugeki sometimes dips a little bit too low for comfort. That said, it's just cheap. It's very cheap, and we've seen this from the authors before. And mind you, look what's happening at the end of the chapter when it's coming to the cliffhanger. They realize that there isn't any real thing that they can cliffhanger on when it comes to the Saito-Soma fight, because they make it pretty obvious that Soma's about to win. And actually, just very quickly, it looks like Soma's about to win, but if they actually like turn it around and say like, no, Soma's gonna lose, I'll respect that. I'll really respect that, but I really want to hear the reasoning for why that would happen. Not the point though. Anyway, since the drama is taken away from Saito and Soma, that match, since the drama's gone away from that, look what they do. They take us back to Kuga and Nene, and they try to leave us with a type of scary event going on. They go back to that event because they realize that the regular trick of leaving a cliffhanger isn't going to work with this situation, so they're giving us another cliffhanger. And is that cliffhanger all that interesting? Man, I don't know. I actually want to hear from you guys. Do you guys think that last little bit is interesting? I mean, this is a pretty much, if you take away the cooking battles, this is pretty much a slice of life manga, right? There is no one that can show up at that end to make it seem all that impressive, right? And again, if I sound a little bit annoyed, it's just I'm just looking at the way they're doing this and I'm just having a little bit of fun. I'm having a bit of fun at Soma's expense talking about it. But anyway, with the cliffhanger at the end, you know, they tried to play it up like, oh, whose shadow is that? And it's like, well, you look at the posture and you look at what he's wearing and you look at the thickness of that arm, my very quick guess is Subaru. And Subaru always scares people, so seeing him pop up there, it's not that hard to believe that. Of course, there's other well-built guys. It could be Megashima. It could be, I don't know, Gin. Shouldn't be Gin, but it could be Gin. You know, I'm going in with the Subaru, so that's my bet. I'm putting that down on the table. But it's just funny. It's just funny how the author goes around structuring the events in his manga. And the thing is, we've gotten this kind of play from the author before with this arc, and we got it with Senzaemon and Azami sitting down and talking about the generation. It's just, I wish it didn't happen, because every time this happens, we don't really get the opportunity to go back to it, and then we have to just wait for it longer, which of course isn't that bad, because the author is playing this game where they want you to be in suspense for the events that they're setting up. It's just a bit annoying in practice, and when it comes to like the thing with the this is bad, it feels cheap, because you get this kind of emotional investment into that next week wait, and then it comes into it and it's like, all right, that was silly. That was just silly. It's ultimately very silly. Mind you, again, if you were looking at this in the context, oh, I'm reading a volume, it's probably not going to be that bad. But when it comes to the Soma and this might be bad, that is a bad mark on this. Everything else is just me having a little bit of fun, ragging on Soma. But at that point, I will say that is a very cheap move. Now, I mentioned Azami, so let's go into what this chapter covered. It seems to be trying to hit a note regarding the philosophy of Saito, and it's just, you know, last week was the week I just decided to go and rant about it, and like this week just fleshes it out a little bit more, and now it just course corrects my own idea about Saito. Like, they turn it into, or no, they properly develop, I shouldn't say turn it, they develop it into Saito wants to protect the weak, and that makes sense. When it comes into Saito's talk with Azami, it's honestly a very disconnected chat. First, let's appreciate though, on the sense of aesthetics, that Azami pretty much humors Saito and embraces the samurai way of life, and then he's talking Saito up. If anything, it's interesting how manipulative Azami can be. Azami talks about how he wants a world where the things that happened to Saito's mother doesn't happen anymore. And it's just, man, what kind of game are you playing here? Like, he also mentioned he just wants culinary excellence for everyone. But when he goes about it in practice, you know, he does it by adhering everyone to one standard. And the standard is set up by the people who stand at the top. He doesn't want any creative process, but the people that stand at the top got there through creative process. You know, it's pretty much a mentality that sets up the winners if you were lucky enough to be in the winning circle. And then the winning circle is forever closed off and stops taking applicants. It's a very funny ideology. And when it comes to Saito, he ultimately says that he doesn't ascribe to Azami's ideologies, but he has no reason to refute them. And I respect that. Like, the guy knows what he wants. If you take the angle that's presented in the chapter, he wants to protect the weak, right? And how can he protect the weak? By being strong. Anything that allows him to gain strength will allow him to pretty much protect the weak. If Saito has power, then he can make sure that things like his mother won't happen again. If Azami's gonna give him that power, why would he complain? His thing, he just wants to protect people like his mom. That's something that can be respected. It's just in the practicality, well, not even in the practicality, it's just a very weird situation. It's a weird situation because the character is detached to a degree. And you could say like, okay, yeah, he's embracing the samurai's code of honor. And at that point, it's like, yeah, I really respect that. That's pretty interesting. It's just, Azami isn't detached. So just seeing the conflict of a relatively detached guy who clearly still has some attachment. He has a chip on his shoulder when it comes to the way his mother was treated. And that's why Azami can manipulate him to some degree. When you see these two interacting, it's just, you understand that Azami has a lot more nefarious plots, and then you have Saito, who's just kind of at this point seeming like he's just a loyal soldier who just happens to be following the way. He has no real investment in this other than his pursuit of strength. And so it just ends up being a very interesting little situation with Soma. And you see Azami also playing with the samurai mentality. You know, you have Saito talking about rebellion and revolt are not a warrior's code, and then Azami takes it, twists it, and says no, rebellion is just people being brave, moving forward, making history move forward. Oh, look, man, that's only a Look, okay, I should be careful. It's very interesting. Whether or not something is a revolution is whether or not you win. If you don't win, it's just a lot of people got killed for someone who tried to do something and then failed. It's a funny situation. It's just a funny situation, and it's just funny how easily Azami is able to get this guy on his side. And then the one thing that I really just found interesting is that Azami says it's not like Senzaemon is your lord, right? And it's like, guy, he technically is. It's just Senzaemon was the kind of guy, he was like a hands-off dictator. He just kind of gave the kids the power so that they could shape the future. And it just happened that the way that they wanted to shape the future was removing Senzaemon. But he allowed that system. So to some degree, would you not say that Senzaemon is his lord? It doesn't matter if your lord doesn't directly tell you what to do. I mean, you came into the system under his rule. You came into the system under his, I guess, overview. Would you not have any kind of honor towards that? Because if Senzaemon isn't Saito's lord, then he's pretty much a wandering samurai. And that, I'm pretty sure, doesn't speak that well for his samurai aesthetic. It's very funny. It's a very funny situation. I think I enjoy seeing it, but at the same time, I don't fully understand this. I don't fully understand like, I have an idea of it, but I do not see all the logical extremes that Saito is like living in. I want to see his full clash with Soma, because in seeing his clash with Soma, I'll have a better sense of what exactly Saito is going after, other than just power. I want to see like the full nuances of his philosophy, because at the end of this, we have Soma saying that he thinks a world of ideals is amazing, and for that sake, he's coming at him. Like, you know, Soma establishes that there is a parallel between the two, and that's what gets us into this line of thought. But I just want to see these two clash, because usually when there's some amount of parallel and you have two characters clashing, that's where you start to see the diversity in their approaches, even though initially it seems like they're heading in the same direction. So I want to see that kind of character dynamic pop up from the next chapter with Saito and Soma. I think that'd be really interesting, and at the very least, it give a better sense for Saito. Like, the thing is, with the Elite 10 that haven't really been explored, we're only going to find out more about their characters by putting them into tough competition. Like Aizen, we got really good sense of Aizen's character thanks to the clashes he had with Soma and Takumi. Momo, we haven't really gotten that great of a sense of Momo yet. And it's just things like that. Nene, we got a really good sense of her during her clash with Soma. So I'm very much excited to just see more of this. I want to see Saito next chapter. I want to see him talk with Soma. I want Soma to just destroy him in the judging process. And yeah, other than that, got nothing else I really want to say about the chapter other than Anne was destroyed by 1,000 blades and Saito looks excited.